Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video for Honeybee Stamps. Today I am finally getting around to using my own set, All Things New. I will be using the stamps and dies as well as the antique layering frames, and this embossing folder is kind of a bit of an older one, but it's called Sandy's Garden. And I know we've been doing a lot of kind of no-line coloring lately, but there's a little kind of like trick to this one to help us get some added dimension. So I'm using our no-line coloring ink, and I am stamping out all of the butterflies that are in the set. We have a lot of variety of sizes, so some that are really big. I think the largest one spans, I think, almost like 3.5 inches, I think, which is the one that you'll see when we get done. Like, it's the card that's by itself. And then, we have some smaller ones that are maybe just like an inch or so. So in doing the coloring, you can you can see how well I clean my stamps, because this one right here obviously is a little bit darker than the rest, and that is because there was some black ink that was left behind when I cleaned it last. But that's okay. I'm not going to stress about it. You won't be able to see it in the end. So I am using my Copic markers, but you can use any markers that you have that you like using, whatever alcohol markers that you have. Alcohol markers will blend best, but that doesn't mean that you can't use water-based markers. Just know that your blend will be a little bit different. All of these, I love bright colors with some contrast, so I chose to do all of the butterfly bodies in black and dark cool grays. So the lightest that I went was out to the C5. And for most of these, like the smaller ones that are just like the little half moon shapes, you're really not going to see all, I think, 3 or 4 colors that I used. For this one with the bit bigger body, the largest one, you will definitely see all 4 colors. So it really just depends on how much real estate you're working with and how comfortable you are with your colors. So I am basically just going to pick a rainbow of colors. We're going to start with coloring some of them just one color, and then we will get into kind of color blending families, because both of them look really nice. And when I do no line coloring, if you guys saw my video over the weekend where we used the English Cottage, we talked about stippling. We are not using any stippling today, but some of the tips for no line coloring are still the same, which is you kind of want to go in there and make sure that you are grounding your lines. So I usually go in there with my darkest color, and then I work out to my lightest color. But if you're scared of that darkest color, you can keep your shadows, lay them down with your lightest color, and then just go back over them as you work out, kind of lightest to darkest, darkest to lightest. That's how I colored for a really long time, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, and it will help you to get more comfortable with where you're putting down your shading. As you get more comfortable, you get more confident, then you will have an easier time starting with the darker colors. You may notice that the one that we just colored in the pink, this one has a mirror image in the, like, one face is left and one face is right. That is intentional. Some of the butterflies are just open and some, face one direction or the other. And that is because I personally, when I am bringing a card together, I personally like being able to kind of switch up what direction they are facing. Just to add to make them just a little bit more dynamic to look at. So for this one does have some stripes along its top wing. And so I chose to leave those white, but you could absolutely do these another color. I'm just right now, I'm going in, I'm finding those lines with my darkest color. I'm making sure that I am extending my color out along that line instead of filling it in entirely with my lightest color, because that's just going to blow out my lines and it's going to just be a blob. At least it will be for me. Maybe you might be a person who, can see where the shading needs to go even after you put the lightest color down. I am not one of those people. And so I have to make sure that I go in and trace out where my darkest shading is going to be so that I keep my lines intact. So that's what we're doing with these. I did, color them for, what was that, the release party. Like I stamped them out and colored some of them for the release party. But I actually didn't end up making a card with them, so I haven't really had a chance to create with them yet, because I was using all other kinds of exciting stuff from the release, from the Cottage Countryside release. So I'm excited to be able to finally get to use my set. We're going to end up doing 3 cards today. I think that, and once we get there to where they're all die cut out, to me, they look like stickers. And I you ever just have a, creatively, you're like, oh, I could use this for fill in the blank. If you had more hours in the day, right? Well, that's how I felt. I was like, oh, I could turn these into stickers or ephemera or, different things like that. And they would be great for that. But since I don't have time to do that currently, I'll share it with you and maybe you will have time to do it. So I hope that you guys had a wonderful weekend. It was, we had Mother's Day. It was a good day. We had good weather. I unfortunately was not able to see my in-laws, because I spent the day with my mom. But I was able to see my own children, which made me happy, and my sisters, and, see my mother. So we kept things super chill, super low key, because we do have a large, not a huge family, because there's 3 of us kids, but then we're all, significant others, children, and they're not my kids, obviously my kids are little, but I'm the youngest of my family. But my nieces and nephews are old enough to have their own significant others. In fact, my nephew is currently engaged and my niece is in a long-term relationship. And then my other nephew is the one who is going to school to be a dentist. And so he just has his eye on that prize. That's it. There's no socializing going on. Just a quick note for this one. So I did this one, almost all in blue, and then I just left some little areas that were white. I'm sure you probably saw me with the pink and the purple. I do like to go back and add just a little bit of shading with the grays in the white areas, just to give them a little bit more dimension. I haven't forgot about that one. I just didn't do it at the time. I will come back to it. I will come back to it. And then, of course, I like to show different looks that you can get. So with the pink butterfly, I did it all pink with the white spots, and I left the white spots open. For this one, I'm going to do the majority of the wings orange, but then the tips I'm going to do black, kind of more of a monarch butterfly style, I think. So doing that, and then I will also try to leave those white areas. But please know that if you are a little bit heavy-handed with your color or it bleeds into those white areas, don't stress. Just use a white gel pen or a white paint pen to kind of put those dots back in there. You'll see as we get closer to the end that I definitely do that for almost all of the butterflies. I think I add little white details onto them, because it's just, you guys know, I enjoy details. So for Mother's Day, obviously we are in a little bit of a different situation with my mom being sick. So I just got her flowers for Mother's Day, had them delivered because it's something that she can kind of like enjoy now. And I know you guys have been sending cards, and that's amazing, and I appreciate that. They have started to, start rolling in. If you are a person who is like, I want to send a card, but I haven't gotten around to it yet, my mom does love carnations and sweetheart roses. Those are two of her favorites. And she also loves lilacs and lavender. Obviously, I know I haven't shared the full story, and it's because it's not really my story to share. But, Honeybee very generously, named my stamp set from a few releases ago, Nancy's lilac bouquet, because my mother's name is Nancy. So now I'm sure that most of you have put, 2 and 2 together to get 4, that clearly there has been something going on for quite some time. And my friends at Honeybee have been aware of that. So we're just trying our best to keep a grateful heart and, work through it the best that we can. This is something that's interesting. So my mom has always had let's talk about the coloring real quick. So here, this is where we're going to kind of branch off and start mixing color families. This one, I'm going to do like a purple into a pink, and then we're going to do a green into a blue, orange into a yellow, and then there was one that I did a blue into a purple, but I didn't film that one, and I apologize. I realized I needed it kind of after the fact. So basically, I'm just going to start with the color I want the majority of the wings to be. And for me, this is the purple. So I'm going in, and you can see I'm extending along those lines, making sure that I'm keeping the shape of each section. And then I'm going to go all the way out to my lightest color, which is a VO1. So I'm going to take that all the way out. And then, because alcohol markers are transparent, I can use a little bit of color glazing. So I'm going to, you know what, I didn't go out to the VO1, did I? No, I did not. I went straight to the pink, which also still works. But you could go all the way out to the VO1 if you were worried about your colors, blending. The more color saturation that you have into the paper, the easier it's going to be for them to blend. So I did the RVO2 and kind of blended that into the VO4. And then this is the RVO4. And I'm doing that on the furthest outsides, and then just again kind of flicking that color into the inside. If after you do that, you find that you do need more of a blend, you can go back in with your lighter colors, whether that is the, bringing in the VO1 or going back over it with the RVO2. As long as you're not blowing out your lines, like putting down so much color that you're losing the shape. And this is true whether you are doing no line coloring or with a black outline. Like, you don't want to oversaturate the paper so it blows out your lines. But you can go back over that to help it blend a little bit. And then this large one, we're going to do the same oranges we did for the little butterfly. We're just going to also include the yellow. Anywho, my mom has had her nails done since I was 13, because that is what I wanted for my 13th birthday. I wanted to get my nails done. And I think that's probably like a generational thing, because I don't think it was super common before like the 90s, 2000s, that everybody was getting their nails done. But when I was growing up, it did become more popular. And so I wanted to do that when I was 13. And so she went with me. And I think I've probably told you guys that story before. But ever since then, she has been getting her nails done. So it's a long, long time, because I'm a far cry from 13. But she, a couple of years ago, no, probably longer than that, probably like 10 years ago, she switched from getting acrylic nails to getting gel nails. And so she's had those for years. Well, during the time that she was in the hospital and the time that she has been home, obviously she is not getting her nails done, but her nails are continuing to grow. So we reached out to the salon where she normally goes to and talked to the guy who usually does her nails. And he said that he could maybe swing it to like get her in and do her nails. But unfortunately, it just didn't work out. So I was like, well, we got to do something because we can't just keep like, they can't just stay on like this. So I ended up purchasing a kit that would do, like I could do her gel polish at home and with the UV light and all of that. And I, the kit that I picked, you can do one that has like one polish or one that has several polishes. I picked the several polishes so that way she would have, some options. And obviously, like, as the time goes on and those grow out, like if we want to change the color or whatever, she just has some options. And then I bought a kit to soak them off because if you have ever had gel nail polish, you know that you have to soak them off with acetone. Now, the place that I went to a long time ago, like when I did, what were they? The dip nails. Dawn talked me into, that's right. When Dawn and I were together and we went to St. Augustine, she talked me into the dip nails. And that I think is the last time I've had them that I had to soak them off. But you basically, you have to saturate like a cotton ball or a cotton pad with acetone, and then they put it on your nail, they wrap it in foil, and then you have to sit there and wait for it pretty much to dissolve the gel. Or you can rest your hand inside a bowl of acetone and wait for it to dissolve the gel. Or you can go to a place where they Dremel them off. Like they use the Dremel that they use for acrylic nails and just kind of, file everything off. So I'm like, okay, I'll get the soak off kit. It has all the things. It has like little caps in there and stuff. So I do that. We start this process at like 4:00. At like 4:00. So you have to file them to like kind of break through the initial top coat, and then you saturate the pad. Well, in this case, they had a pad that was glued into the foil. So you saturated that pad and then you wouldn't have to mess around with it. You just would put it on there and then wrap it around and then put the cap on it. So we did that. And then like you have to wait 10 or 15 minutes and then they give you like kind of like an orange wood stick to like start scraping off as it's melting, as it's deteriorating. You kind of like scrape it off. And guess what? It did not work that well. It did not work. So I was like, okay, so like, we'll just have to keep soaking them and scraping them. It's just going to be a process. But in the meantime, I had to go pick up Jelly Bean. So I like left my sisters were like, we can handle it. We're just going to soak and scrape. Like we got it. And so, I went to go get Jelly Bean and then I brought her back to my house and waited for my wonderful husband to get home from work. Once he did, then I went back down to my parents and, I get there and I'm like, whoa, what's going on here, ladies? So my middle sister apparently went to the dollar store to buy some like soak off. Like it came with about all the acetone, but not enough to like soak it in there. So she went and bought like this acetone soak off stuff. And then she also bought like a Dremel, like the dollar store had a nail Dremel. So now we're soaking and Dremeling and filing and like we are just trying anything that we can outside of just like ripping it off of her fingernail. All right, we have to go back to the card. So here is the tool that you need that you can bring to the table to add instant dimension to any sort of coloring. Okay, and it is your black colored pencil. I am using my Prismacolor pencils. So you do want to make sure that you have a good colored pencil, and it's very sharp because we want to make sure that we're getting kind of in like just the nooks and crannies. But all you're going to do is go in and put it into the darkest parts. I'm not putting down a ton of pressure. Your hand should not be hurting after you're done coloring. And I'm just getting it, like I said, it's very sharp. So we're just getting into that little areas where we want it to be the darkest. And then we're extending it out. Now, if you are like me and you're maybe get a little ahead of yourself and get a little heavy handed, like I did here with the pink one, if you do that and you don't like the way that it looks, you feel like it needs to be a bit blended more, you can bring in a similar color and go over top of that black, and it will help to kind of blend that out. But for the most part, I don't do that. I think the only other one I had to do this for was the orange, because I just got a little overzealous with the black. But in doing this, and I do like what just happened there was I had to stop so that I can sharpen it. But in doing this, you can already see like it adds a ton of dimension and a ton of shadows. This is also a really helpful trick if you have a limited amount of markers, or if you're afraid of your darker colors. You can go in there with a black colored pencil and kind of bolster up those shadows, and it will help create the contrast that's maybe a little bit less scary. Yeah, see here the orange one is, I went back in with this one and just kind of blended that out. But I will tell you that you have to wait until you are done with the coloring before you go in with the colored pencils. Like, you need to be done with your markers, because they're a wax, like the colored pencils are wax based, and so it will resist the ink if you try to go back over the colored pencil. So really be sure that you're done with your markers before you're going in there with the colored pencil, because it's kind of like once you go in with that, you can't go back. So anyway, I used both the black and the white, because you can add some really nice highlights with a white colored pencil, but in order to get the dimension, the black is really kind of where it's at. What is his name? Hold on, I'll think of it. Alberto Gava. His coloring is amazing. I don't think he does videos. I think he's only on Instagram, and I just adore him. His coloring is fantastic. But this is like his little trick that he always does, is going in with that colored pencil, and just really getting it like deep and dark in there. This is also super helpful for their antennas, because then, you don't have to worry about them becoming too large, because you have that nice sharp tip. So then from here, this is the white colored pencil. Again, this isn't necessarily something that you have to do, but I do like to add some highlights. If you want a softer highlight, you would stick just with the white colored pencil. If you want something that's a little bit bolder, which usually I do, that's why I bring in the white gel pen, which you'll see here in just a little bit after I'm done doing all of the things with the white colored pencil. So anyway, between all three of us working on her fingernails, like trying to get the gel off, the gel that she had on there, I was not done with that. I'm not even kidding you, until like 9 o'clock. It took like 4.5, 5 hours to even get us to the point where we were able to do the rest of her manicure, which, by the way, went super fast and was really easy. So that part was great. So once we got that all off, I trimmed them. because she was also like, anytime she would scratch herself, you know, she has such thin skin, she would be leaving like little marks. Here, just something to show you with the white gel pen, like you don't have to have any white dots there to follow. You can absolutely add them in if you feel like it's going to add some detail and enhance your design. Then from there, I'm going to do my die cutting. I used the largest layer for the antique layering frame, and then the mid-tone one, as well as all of the butterflies matching dies. And then the other thing that we did, this piece is cut slightly smaller than an A2 size. It is a 5.25 by 4, I think. Nah, it might not even be that. It might be a little bit larger than that, because I think it was just 1/8 of an inch. But so these, I like the texture that these are bringing, but they did need a little bit of something. So I am using my Distress inks. This is Salvage Patina and then Salty Ocean. And I am just giving myself a little bit of color in the background. So this one that you see me doing here was the one where I was like, for sure I'm going to do that, because it's going to create like a nice soft blue sky. And then the other ones, I really just was adding, you know, some color and some interest so that they weren't just like plain black and white panels. I did speed this up quite a bit because it's like the same colors. It's the ink blending of the same colors. So anyway, once we got her nail polish off, then like I trimmed them, filed them, everything else to make sure like when she was itching them that she, you know, itching, you know, her head or her neck or whatever, like she wasn't scratching herself. And then my other two sisters tried out all the nail polish colors, because since they're gel, they don't set until you put them in the UV light. Which really is the way to go. Like if you ever find yourself in this situation, would highly recommend the gel set UV light. So we did, you know, we showed her all the colors. There was a couple of pinks, couple of purples. She ended up going with one that was more of like a coral color, which was great. And then like you do, they have a peel off base coat, so hopefully we won't have to soak them off the next time. So we have the peel off base coat. I did put down. I am very, very intrigued to see how that works for us going forward, because if the peel off base coat works, like I would maybe even entertain using them for like formal occasions or going on vacation. Here, what I'm doing is I'm just going to spatter on some clean water, and then I am also going to spatter on some Perfect Pearls. And this is just to add some shine and some interest into those backgrounds. If you don't have Perfect Pearls, you could just do plain water, since it's Distress ink and it'll react with water. For all of my sentiments, they're all from this same set, and I did stamp them all, treated with our anti-static tool, and then stamped in the Brilliant White pigment ink. Why couldn't I think of that? Brilliant White pigment ink for all of these onto the black, and then used a white detail embossing powder. So anyway, you put on the peel off base coat or a regular base coat. They do have both included in the kit. And then you put on your, like a thin coat of your color, cure it in the light, which I think takes like if you press for a long time, it's 2 minutes. If you press for a short, I think it's 1 minute. So then you just, you know, set them for the minute. And then when you do the top coat, you set it for, I think the 2 minutes. But really, once we got to like after the removal process, I think the whole manicure maybe took like a half an hour. Which was great. So I definitely had a good experience with that. I will report back on the peel off base coat and let you know if that was a good one. But her mom's nails definitely look like her normal nails. And so we are very happy with that. And so is she. Because part of the reason why we wanted to do it is because we bought the statue cast kits, which is a story for another time. But we did buy those, and so I needed her nails to be how they would normally look before we did the hand statues. So here I did glue like the embossed panel down to a black card front, and then for the butterflies I am going to glue their bodies down flat, but I did pop up their wings on some foam tape, and for this card I will do that for all of them, as well as the sentiment, pop it up on foam also. I like the embossed background. I feel like it gives some added texture into the background and just kind of creates more interest than just, a flat white background. Please forgive my autofocus. I know I say that every time. I still don't know what the problem is. And so I put the larger one like down in the bottom left, and then the two smaller ones up in the top right. And this is just going to help create some balance along that diagonal. And from there, then the other ones, I did put together with varying types or varying widths. Like sometimes I did use the foam tape and sometimes I did use the liquid glue. I also did, where I was on the blue, whether it was the sky or the background, I did kind of blend those in those edges for those, because you guys know I don't love a stark white outline. So then for this one, I did the two of them flat, three of them popped up with the foam tape, as well as the sentiment. I popped that one up also. And again, this is just to create a little bit of varying depth and some more interest. So glued their bodies down flat and popped up their wings. For the littlest one, I just popped him all the way up because there wasn't really, I would have had to have really tiny pieces to just do his wings. And then for this one, this is the one with the antique layers. So this background I did flat. In the middle of those antique layers is the piece that fits on the outside. So I cut those out of black and laid that, glued them on top. So when you look at the card, it kind of changes the shape of the cutout because on the camera, that's all you can see. But in real life, you can see that little bit of white that's kind of peeking through on the sides. And so it does add another kind of element of interest. For the middle piece, I did pop up the entire middle piece on foam. And then that way it made it nice and easy to attach my butterfly and my sentiment. Now the sentiment you'll see here is already in two pieces, but I did cut it apart. So the happy birthday wishes is one, and it is connected. For the wishes part, I did trim that off and just kind of round it out so that way I could stack it underneath and fill that space a little bit better. And then after this, I think I did it earlier. I think I added the clear sparkle earlier, but I did add it because you guys know I love the glitter. And then speaking of the glitter, I am going to go, oh no, there it is. I knew I did it. I was like, what? But at what point did I do it? Lots of glitters on all the butterflies. And then I also did the rhinestone, rainbow rhinestones. So I just, squirt my Be Creative glue down, just a little dot, and then I can pick them up out of my tray and adhere them down. I was very generous with mine because it's quite a large pack, and I feel like I can be generous with them, and that'll be okay. And then once we're done doing this, we're going to do a quick little recap of all of the cards. I think they're all different but super pretty. So here's the one that just has the large butterfly, and then the 3 that has the rhinestones, and then the last one which kind of goes in rainbow order. So I hope this inspires you to get out that one little black colored pencil and see what a difference it can make in your coloring. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I always appreciate your time, and I'll catch you on the next video. Bye.